Hi, everyone. Welcome to the TWC Alumni Panel. My name is Laura Kepsel, and I'm the Senior Manager for Alumni Relations here at the Washington Center. So I clearly have an attachment to all of the panelists today. And you are so lucky. I handpicked some really, really cool people for you all to hear from. They are in totally different careers. They are so accomplished. They are just fun to talk to, so you're going to love it. So just to do some guidelines for what this will look like, if you have any questions, you are going to be in a breakout room with each of the panelists at the end. So I'd recommend saving it for then, unless it is extremely vital that it's all the panelists, before you go into the breakout rooms, in which case write it in the chat or write it to Pri, because she will be monitoring the chat. So I will go ahead and introduce the panelists. They will talk about what they are up to. We'll do the panelist questions and then the speed networking breakout session. So we have Tevin Ali today. We have Kristen Wilsonski, GT Sivanikia, and Emily Hajar. So I will go ahead and have each of the panelists say a little bit about themselves. So we'll start with Tevin.
All right. Hi there, TWC Summer Class of 2020. My name is Tevin Ali, and I was part of the 2016 Summer Class. And I have a unique background, as you will come to see as I explain further. But currently, I work in business operations for a global communications firm in New York City. And I'm also a keynote speaker in the higher education space.
Thank you, Tevin. Kristen, what about you?
Hi guys, my name's Kristen Wilsinski, and I'm probably one of the older internship people here. I was from spring 2002, International Relations, and I'm currently working for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the Boston metro area in law enforcement and intelligence field.
Excellent, thank you, Kristen. And GT?
Hello everyone, I'm GT Sivanikia. I attended TWC spring 2016. I graduated from Washington College in 2017, and I'm currently living in New York, working for Goldman Sachs in the engineering division in engineering management and strategy.
Thank you, GT. And last but not least, Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Hager. I was in the Washington Center in the fall of 2012, which was a fun time to be in DC during a presidential election. And currently now, I am the research director for the Massachusetts Legislative Committee on Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities. So you've got two Massachusetts folks here. Woo! Really happy to be here with you today, and excited to learn from you guys how your internships are going also. So thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emily. Okay, so first question, I'm going to have Tevin and Kristen answer. So we'll start with Tevin. What is your education background?
Good question. So I come from a science background. I graduated from Johns Hopkins University with my master's degree in biotechnology, enterprise, and entrepreneurship. And I earned my bachelor's of science degree in biotechnology from Florida Atlantic University. And for me, it's interesting how I navigated from studying science to now working in business and communications and as a professional public speaker. For me, with my education, I worked as a cancer researcher for a couple of years, and I found that presenting my scientific research to audience, it was really interesting to me. And I followed that passion that led me to my master's degree at Hopkins, where it kind of detailed into communications and business. And I love that program. I thrived in it, going from science to communications. So I just want to encourage everybody here. You don't always feel like you have to stick to one thing, one major, one path. As students and professionals, we're constantly growing and we're evolving. And through this TWC experience, and through all your experiences, continue to reflect and pay attention to what you enjoy doing and follow that path. The question isn't what is your major? The question is now, what do you enjoy doing? So that's what I really encourage you to study.
I love that, Tevin. Thank you. And Kristen, what about you?
So I entered college with an undeclared major. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I attended a small private school for about a year, and it just wasn't for me. So I actually transferred to a state school. And for me, that was a good move. I got to save a little bit of money, and it was a lot more opportunities there. And I actually changed my major twice while I was there. So, just keep in mind that you get exposed to different professors, different minors, different majors that come along, and don't tie yourself down to something if you're just not sure yet. So I ended up majoring in history with a minor in political science, and I graduated from Worcester State College, which is now Worcester State University. And I graduated and I ended up working in the insurance field, which wasn't my favorite thing to do, but it was paying the bills. And my current position, I've been there about 15 years, and I ended up going back to school and getting my master's degree in public administration and specializing in criminal justice. And then with that, I received a graduate certificate in victim studies. So my background is a little interesting. My internship was in 2002, like I said, so it was right after 9/11, and it's sort of a unique time in history. And I thought I was going to be a history teacher, but then 9/11 happened, and the field that I'm in, Homeland Security and such, opened up hugely. So things kind of shifted for me.
That was wonderful. Thank you. I love that, like being able to move colleges and things like that should be more normalized because it's not always like the best fit for you. So I love that answer. Okay, my next question is, let's start with GT. What fields are you in and how did you get into it?
Right. So this is actually normally quite a tricky question for me to answer like easily. So obviously I work at a large investment bank, but I'm not an investment banker myself. I also work in the engineering division, but I'm not a software engineer either. So I work in engineering management and strategy. And what that means is we essentially help devise and execute the strategy of the division, essentially pushing forward the vision of the CIO and the COO for how they want to see the division develop, grow, innovate. So to boil that really down, it comes to essentially problem solving and helping make things more efficient. That's all to say that don't narrow down your options of firms you look at. You might consider something out of scope or not in the field you're interested in, but cast a wide net. And in a lot of these large firms, they do so much under the surface, and a lot of the stuff they do is not necessarily what they're known for. So don't narrow down the field of options for yourself in that sense. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, GT. And Emily, what about you? What fields are you in and how did you get into it?
Sure. So when I was an intern in 2012, I interned on the legislative affairs team in the executive office of the president in the Council on Environmental Quality. And throughout my time at UMass Amherst, I was primarily, I was a political science major, but if there's political science majors on this panel, there's a lot of different areas where you can focus. Even the Homeland Security issue, you can kind of divert from political science. So I was very focused on environmental policy throughout college, continued to do my master's in public policy after I finished my undergrad at UMass. And from there, I went on a campaign, and campaigns are a great experience and you learn a lot, but they can be a little tough. So I needed to get away from campaigns after that. And when I was in grad school, and in my internship, through the Washington Center with the Legislative Affairs team, I always thought that the legislature was a really important middle ground for where policy and politics kind of come together so you can get laws passed. And then, in the executive branch, usually you can get all the nitty-gritty stuff done. So I was interested in working in the Massachusetts legislature, so I started applying for jobs. And for me, what was most important was finding a representative or a senator that I really connected with, and I believed in all of the things that they believed in. It would be hard in that kind of environment to work for someone you didn't fully agree with. It could be really tough because you're an advisor to that person. So I found a UMass alum forwarded me a job posting. It was for a scheduler and administrative aide job with this woman who's the chair of the Committee on Children and Families. And I just went for it. I thought I could do the job, no problem, and maybe there'd be room for advancement. And I've been there 4.5 years now, and I've had 3 positions. And now I work primarily in child welfare policy. So working, especially in COVID, on, how are families struggling right now? Teachers and medical professionals don't have direct eyes on kids like they usually do. So we've been doing a lot of work on trying to keep kids safe, but also get families the resources they need to be able to be great parents. And so that's where I'm at right now. Definitely, when you're looking for jobs, try to look for things that you really believe in. I took a really low salary, but it was worth it. I got a second job, and this is where I needed to be. So I've learned a lot, and changing policy areas was really, kind of a good path for me. I love this topic area. So that's what I do.
It's amazing, Emily. Like, such important work you're doing, especially right now. Oh, I love that. Okay, my next question, let's start with Tevin. What was something you did not expect from your current career?
Ooh, all right. Something I did not expect definitely was choosing my current career. And I'm going to bounce off a little bit of on Emily's story because I have a similar story to share. So let me tell you. So a few months out of grad school, I got offered 3 job offers around the same time. The first one was to work for a startup with a colleague of mine from grad school. The second one was directly in my field, working in marketing for a biotechnology company, and that was an ideal job, 70K salary right off the back. And the last one was an entry-level role at a communications firm, and that salary was about average. So looking at those 3 paths, right, I struggled a little bit deciding because I knew I would succeed in whichever one I would choose in. But I ultimately chose the lower salary job due to my passions and wanting to learn about communications more and be a better communicator and be exposed to the experts in the field. So imagine I turned away a $70,000 job right out of college. That's everybody's dream, right? So I went for my goal and the experience I would get through the communications job. And, money is money, but experiences, they're priceless. So, and that's what I would encourage you to think about. It's crucial to think about and rank while you're pondering these things. What's important to you in a job? Things I ponder about is like, what can it grow into? How am I growing in that job? Who will I be working with? Who will I be meeting through the job? Is there a sense of community in the job? Location and salary and steady income, and the list goes on, right? So create your list and rank them. I think that's really important. And for me, at the communications firm where I'm working at right now, it was also the way I got hired. They hired me because of my skills in public speaking and my passion for communications. And it's been working well so far. I've been exposed to people and done work with some prestigious clients such as Instagram, Sesame Street, and Calvin Klein, and so much more. So definitely something I didn't expect when I was going to work with that, right? So from my current career working communications and seeing how my science background and business education led me there, it makes sense looking back because I kind of just followed the passion, my passion. And that's the thing in life, right? Sometimes we don't choose our purpose, but rather our purpose chooses us. So I leave you with that tidbit of wisdom and this tidbit of wisdom as well. To the challenge and ultimate reward in our careers, at least in my opinion, is not really getting that high paying job starting off. It's about waking up and loving what you do. So don't focus too much on the major, but rather always pay attention to what you like doing, what brings you joy, and that'll open up the path that's meant for you. And I feel the money will follow afterwards. So that's my advice with that.
What a great tidbit to leave off on. I love that, Tevin. Thank you. And Kristen, what about you? What is something you did not expect in your current career?
So I knew I wanted the position as an analyst, but I didn't know that I wanted to be there so badly that I was willing to work nights, weekends, and holidays. So when the job offer came up, they said it's actually 3 to 11, it's Sunday through Thursday, you got to work Thanksgiving, Christmas, everything. Because you're starting at the low end of the seniority totem pole here, and is that something you're interested in? And it was actually a significant pay cut from the insurance company that I was working at, but I knew I wanted to be back in the public sector and to help people out. That's always just where my heart was. So I took that jump, took that pay cut, and over a course of a few years, I ended up getting more seniority and ended up getting a shift that I liked. And it all worked out in the end, but you have to be willing to possibly make that sacrifice the first couple of years. just to kind of get your foot in the door. So that's a piece of advice that I would give, is that, it may not be those hours that you want. It may not be that salary that you think that you deserve. And that could definitely be true. But sometimes just that's how the market is. The public sector does not pay as much as the private sector. So, you have to keep that in mind. And a lot of times that I found is that the salary is non-negotiable if it's a union job. So they say, this is the starting salary and it is what it is. Take it or leave it. We have 300 other applicants. So sometimes you just have to go with your gut and say, I'm going to give this a try. And for me, it's worked out. I've been there 15 years and I've moved up and been promoted and I'm very happy there. But sometimes you just have to take one for the team.
I love that. That is so true. It may not be your ideal situation at first, but clearly that paid off big time. So thank you. Okay, so GT, what skills have you found essential for success in your field?
Right. Honestly, knowing how to work as a team and across different teams is very important. So first things first, like knowing how to get on with your own team and focus on collaboration, how you can make sure you can take the team to where it needs to be is a very important skill, because it's so easy to get bogged down by individualism and trying to make sure you shine. But on the contrary, like on the other flip side of that, one of the most important advice that I ever got was about establishing your brand early. And what does that mean? The person at my first job, which was at Morgan Stanley in Baltimore, they told me about this stuff, like establish your brand early. And I was like, what does he mean? What does he mean by this? And essentially what he was telling me was pick something which either you're good at or you want to be good at, and focus on that thing and become the best at it. Become the best in the office at that thing. And after that, don't just do it secretly and become the best in silence. Make sure everyone knows you're the best at that thing. So whenever that problem comes up or is escalated, the first face people see in their mind, or the first name they see flash across their eyes, is yours. So what that does is it establishes value towards yourself. And once you do that, that's how you get called into the room where things are happening. That's where you, when it's time for promotions, your name comes up. So that's a really important thing, just establishing your brand. But I think that something which I also want to like hit home on, and this can be like a little bit tricky to like wrap your head around, is the idea that perception is reality. What people think about you is really going to be the fact. So if you're doing a killer job and everyone thinks the opposite, that's going to be problematic. So you have to make sure that the perception about you is also strong, and that if you are really indeed killing it, make sure that you are bringing forward like tangible statistical proof of that, and that your value is really seen. So
that is amazing. I've never even thought of it in that context about building your personal brand. That is, blew my mind. Thank you, GT. And Emily, what about you? What skills have you found essential for success in your field?
Sure. I just want to say I'm learning a lot. So thank you, everybody. I think in the public policy space, either if you're in the legislature or in the executive branch, when you have these really, really complex policy questions that in my field, directly impact people pretty quickly. And there's going to be a lot of different stakeholders that have different opinions about how to get the work done, or what's the most important, or we would do it this way, we would do it that way. My boss, the state representative, KCON, has really instilled in me the value in bringing people together, building really, really strong relationships, and getting people to the table to have conversations, honest conversations, respectful conversations about, okay, we all agree what the big outcome needs to be. Let's talk about how we get there. And when we've kind of positioned ourselves as an office that kind of sometimes has to help facilitate some negotiations, especially between really, really strong advocate groups and, say, the administration in the executive branch, or leaders in the House or the Senate. And when you sit together and you talk and you kind of think about, okay, well, if we do this, maybe we can do this, and try to see if you can resolve some issues just by having conversations. Um, it, I think it helps like that perception, how people perceive you, and also makes people know that you are really thorough about your work and you've taken a lot of effort to do it right. And I think in politics, especially, I mean, there's a time right now in our lives that we're seeing a lot of stuff happening. And I think it's important, if you're in that field, to decide where you want to position yourself in politics. Are you going to go with your gut and really try to help people, and or are you going to let kind of the flashy money, different perks kind of lead you in a different path? And even, you know, and even just some other things, I don't know, just trying to keep a good moral ethic grounding in yourself to make sure you're really doing the right thing for the right reasons. Politics can be really gross sometimes, and if you want to continue in the work, you just have to keep reminding yourself why you're in it, what you're doing to try to help people, or help the environment or the world, and try to stick on that path. But if you can build good relationships, you'll hopefully go far. So.
That was amazing, Emily. That's such a good point too about keeping your moral high ground, because if you're making tons of money eventually, that's going to hit hard if it's not following your moral compass. So I love that answer. Okay, my last question is for all the panelists, and we're going to start with Tevin. What is one piece of advice you have for a new professional applying to their first job out of college?
Great question. I would say definitely try and showcase your skills as much as possible. For me, when I was applying for jobs, definitely whatever awards I won and my Hopkins degree, it served as a perk, but the job I'm in right now, I ultimately got hired because of my skills in public speaking, communications, and my passion for that. So every speaking opportunity I was in, anything I've written that was really good, I put it inside of a portfolio, a digital portfolio, and I would share it with those employers. And when I sent that off to that company, they didn't think twice. They called me up immediately and interviewed me. And I didn't even apply for that job, to be honest with you. I just sent them my portfolio and they brought me in. So it was kind of a secret way in a sense. So if this goes back to what GT was sharing, right? Build your personal brand, right? And become so good at something and build your portfolio for that. So, and I'm going to be honest right now, with jobs, right? It'll be hard, right? There will be many doors that close in your face, but I want to encourage you to keep in mind that no really means next opportunity. And always keep that mindset that sometimes in life, we don't get what we want because sometimes we deserve better, or something better is waiting for us. So definitely keep that in mind with the rejections that will ultimately come as well. It'll make you stronger at the end of the day.
That was such a good answer. And all of you are working on a professional portfolio, aren't you? Right? So that is perfect timing. Thank you, Tevin. Okay, Kristen, what about you?
I would kind of piggyback a little bit on what GT was saying, is, that branding, but also, keep in mind that, like he was saying, that one company is not just finance or banking or something like that. Keep in mind that they may have other opportunities open there, and apply for many things that you might be interested in or might not even be interested in, that you never know what might come your way.
I love that. Keep your options open, especially during a pandemic, put your feelers out there. I love that. Okay, GT, what about you? What do you think?
Right. I mean, I echo all the things which have been said already. Incredible advice. Also learning a lot. But I'd say, cast a wide net, and, look, and to go along with that, you're not defined by your first job or even your second or third job, so cast that wide net and get your foot in the door, start getting some experience, and, who knows what you can pivot from there. When I graduated, I unfortunately didn't graduate with a job, to go straight into. So I really had to, set my expectations and then lower them and then lower them and then raise them up again and then lower them. You know, you kind of like get a feeler and a test of like the market and the different industries and how different things operate. So an interview and a resume for one firm looks completely different for another firm or another industry. So cast that wide net. And one of the great, you know, pieces of advice I got as well is that an interview that you go to, if you don't get the job, it's interview experience, you know? Like when you walk into a gym, you can't like expect to squat 400 straight away. It takes time. So, you know, my first interview sucked, but I can tell you by my 10th interview, like at that point, I was just like rolling off the resume off my tongue, and it, you know, it just gets easier and easier as you go along. So yeah, cast a wide net and see it as experience all the way through.
I love that. I'm feeling inspired right now. And last but not least, Emily.
Sure. Great answers from the previous panelists. I think I have 3 tips. I think one is utilize your network because, you know, I know all you are virtual in your internships right now and in your involvement in the Washington Center. But if you can interact with each other virtually, try to build those relationships and build your network. You know, connect with us on LinkedIn because I think going forward, it's going to be really, really valuable and really probably one of the best ways to get a job is through your network. You know, if you know somebody that works in an industry or works for a particular, you know, politician or something, you know, try to connect with them, do informational interviews. That's a really valuable tool. When I graduated grad school, I just popped into offices and started dropping off my resume and just had informational interviews. And it was a little bold, but it led me to a couple more interviews, which was nice. So that's one. I'll just throw it out there too. I'm still such good friends with my roommates. I know you all aren't living together, and that's probably so disappointing to hear, but I'm still such good friends with my roommates from the Washington Center, and we chat all the time. We just went to a wedding for one of the girls this fall. So really just take advantage of this time with the Washington Center also, because it'll be great. I think 2, do your research going into an interview. Go on LinkedIn, figure out who you're going to interview with, see if you know anybody that they know, again, using your network. You can totally just spy on everybody on LinkedIn and try to figure out if you have any mutual connections, because sometimes it's helpful. You just name drop and just try to do it. And then lastly, I've done a handful of hirings for our office for our like entry-level jobs and internships. And I love it when people send thank you notes. I know it's a little tough now with COVID to do like a handwritten note, but an email definitely is fine. But I love getting a handwritten thank you note after I've interviewed somebody. I'm like, oh, they really appreciated the time that I put in to interviewing them. So I think making that lasting impression after your interview is also really great. So those are my 3 things.
Amazing answer. Again, I am just blown away. I love thank you notes. And all of you should definitely utilize your Facebook groups right now. And at the end, I'll post the LinkedIn alumni group. Utilize that. That is a constant virtual network at your disposal. So a huge round of applause to our panelists.